Hey everybody, I'm out mountain biking with Charlie. How's everybody doing? It's about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Today we started learning about, me and Charlie are mountain biking up here, and I found this cool rock, so I wanted to talk about rocks. Today we started talking about sedimentary rocks, which form at the bottom of a body of water. After all the sediment settles down to the bottom, over thousands of years it hardens and turns into sedimentary rock. Okay, there's three types of rock. There's three big categories. There's actually thousands and thousands of types of rock, but there's three big categories. So sedimentary is what we learned about this morning. Forms at the bottom of a body of water, right? Sedimentary rock. This is an igneous rock. So I'm out in a mountain. You can see there's another big, they're called outcrops, where the rocks just stick out. This is what we're standing on. There's soil on the ground, but then under that, there's a bunch of rock. So these outcrops are where the rock comes through, right? Here's a big one. So basically that's underneath the soil that I'm standing on right now, and Charlie's standing on, are giant rocks like this. So these are called igneous rocks, which are made from volcanoes. So millions and millions of years ago, these hills that I'm in, or these mountains, were actually volcanoes, right? So as the volcanoes erupted and they cooled, right? The magma that comes out cools and turns into igneous rock, right? So there's lots of granite rock. This I would most likely say is granite or something like that, which is an igneous rock, which means that it was actually formed from a volcano. It actually was magma that hardened and turned into rock. So that's the second type of rock, is igneous rock, right? So there's two big branches we've talked about so far, sedimentary, and this is igneous. We're going to learn more about this tomorrow, so watch tomorrow's video. Okay? The third type of rock is called metamorphic rock. That's a little metamorphic rock I'll talk about in the future, but basically metamorphic rocks have to make their way down in the down underneath the ground, right? So it takes millions and millions of years, and metamorphic means that it basically just changes from one type to another. So a metamorphic rock, many types of rock can be metamorphic rocks. That just means that they changed over long periods of time underneath the ground. So it takes a lot of heat and a lot of pressure, which you can only get really far down deep under the Earth's surface. So that's where metamorphic rocks are formed. So we'll talk more about that in detail, but I wanted to show you an example of some igneous rocks. And now here, check it out. So we've been talking about weathering. Let me rewind this. Look at all these giant pieces of that rock that have fallen off, right? So this is the big one. You can see all these huge pieces. These are giant chunks of the rock that have broken off of it. You can see it's the same type of rock. It's just sitting right at the bottom. So those were once part of this big rock. And the weather, as it rains, as it snows, as the ice makes its way into the little cracks and expands, it breaks off pieces of this. So that's an example of weathering, where it's all actually just breaking off of this rock from the weather that's happening to this rock every day. It's cool. There's actually some little trees have been able to get their roots into there, so those are going to actually make the cracks bigger too, right? There's a crack in here big enough for this tree to grow out of it, so that means water can get in there, and then it'll freeze and it'll expand, and this rock will crack. And that's all part of weathering. It's all breaking this rock down into smaller pieces, right? And then these rocks will eventually break down into smaller and smaller pieces, which will make their way into a river and could make a sedimentary rock. Long times in the future will. Millions of years from now, this rock will change from an igneous rock into a metamorphic rock, right? It'll change, and then, or it could just make its way into a river and become sedimentary rock if it makes its way into a body of water and then settles down to the bottom. So rocks kind of go through a cycle, but you can never tell which way it goes in the cycle, right? It's not always the same way like a normal cycle. It actually changes. So this igneous rock could become a sedimentary rock if it lands in the river and then makes its way to a body of water. Or if it makes its way down deep, it doesn't get into a body of water and it ends up down in the middle of the earth, it could become a metamorphic rock. So this rock, millions of years from now, could be any of the three types of rock, which is kind of cool about the rock cycle. All right, so we'll learn more about this, but this is a cool video to just kind of check out an example of an igneous rock. All right, see ya, enjoy.